Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. It is fantastic as ever to have you here, because we're working on a cavalry saber. Today is episode 9 in this phenomenally daunting project. You see this? This is a piece of wax that Will has been working on. This needs to be carved into almost the exact shape of our Civil War era guard that's going to be cast in bronze or brass,
and then will be fit over this blade. It's gonna sit like right there.
It's gonna look pretty awesome. Will's been plugging away at that while I'm building a vacuum chamber. Stay tuned for that video. Before we jump in to what we're gonna be talking about here at the beginning, which is design, I wanna thank today's sponsor, which is NordVPN. NordVPN is a virtual private network service that helps keep you safe while you're browsing the internet. They're a longtime sponsor of the show. And when you sign up at my link, nordvpn.com/Forge, and use code FORGE at checkout, you're gonna be getting 75% off a 3-year plan. And that code FORGE is going to get you an extra month for free. Thank you, Nord, for sponsoring the video. Thank you guys for supporting them. That helps support us.
Now, we've put a huge amount of time and effort into design and thinking and planning about the materials, about the design, and I think we've settled on using brass for the guard of our saber. That's going to be the key focus of this video and for the next little while. And on that note, Will, in the last episode, he poured this huge wax blob that is going to eventually become the guard, carved from wax, for us to eventually pour in that brass. So he is gonna work on that.
Right now, this is a pretty beefy boy. I'm gonna get a jeweler's saw in there and like just carve out honking loads of material basically. So you just saw me take the coping saw inside the D-guard and rough out a couple big chunks. I'm gonna move on to the wax files to refine that shape, have a little bit better control in there. Uh-oh.
What was that?
Nothing. The sprue broke. Ah! Oh. Really lovely thing about wax. If you mess up, you literally just light it on fire and it's all better. So moving on to working on the outside a little bit more. Just shaping it down a bit. Seemed like it could use a little bit more curve. So I'm just gonna shape this down with this wax file and then scrape it. And we're moving to files, because scraping that outside curve is not terribly easy, but it is so much fun. Oh, I love scraping. There we go. Time to move on to probably some more files and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's about a 1/4 inch thick or so. A little bit thicker at some parts, but we'll thin that down after we start cutting in the rough holes and stuff like that. All right, so here's the deal. We're at the point where the guard is sculpted to pretty much where it's supposed to be. And now I've got that paper design that I drew up with all the cutouts cut out of it on here, and I'm ready to start scribing those marks through onto the wax. And at that point, I'll get ready and start doing some intense carving. So that's the plan. Hopefully I don't mess anything up. This is a very critical step in the process, so we'll see how it goes.
Okie dokie, I am back from building a vacuum chamber. I'm not really back. I was on that side of the workshop building the vacuum chamber. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't. That was fun. It works. It pulls a vacuum, but we still need to cast something with it. Do you want to run us through where you are on this, what you've been doing?
So I've spent a lot of time thinning down the inside of the guard and shaping it and all that jazz. And I've just been working on scribing the design into it that we're going to carve out and then eventually engrave after the casting. So that was the design that I drew up on paper and then transferred onto the wax, and now hopefully soon it'll be out of brass.
Hopefully. We've got a little ways to go, and that's what this is. Oh, it's kind of my touch mark.
It kind of is your touch mark. That was kind of the goal.
But this is another test piece for us to try out the vacuum chamber on for the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Turning on the vacuum pump, opening up the vacuum. Here it goes.
Oh, it's bubbling over.
It is? Oh my goodness, it is bubbling over. Turn off the vacuum. It definitely pulled a vacuum in that case. Let's vibrate it now. Go, go, go. Full speed, go for it, go for it. Okay.
What did that do?
It definitely vibrated it, and it looked like it kind of made it a little slicker. I think the proof of the pudding, Will, is going to be in how the investment rose. So I just pulled it out of the vacuum chamber, and it was warm. So I imagine the setting of that investment is a little exothermic reaction. What's a little disconcerting are all the little bubbles at the surface here. I'm hoping those bubbles are just the bubbles that were inside now on the surface and aren't a reflection of what the inside of it looked for, because that would defeat the purpose of this whole vacuum chamber build entirely. The proof will be in the pouring. But we've got to wait a while before we can pour any brass, because we want to be trying pouring brass for the first time. And so in this waiting, while we burn out the wax, while we do all that fun stuff, I am going to do some more engraving practice. So here are some examples of the borders that I have been practicing. Why am I practicing this? Well, these are very small little cuts. Very small. I have to practice cutting straight lines and even lines, and I have to practice some laying out. I learned a huge deal doing these practice cuts right here. While I've been working away, Will has been working on another test piece to have a look at sculpting the wax and how that then is going to look in the brass. He is also going to thin down the tang and ricasso area of the blade some more down to final dimension. Finally, after burning out both of the test pieces, both of the investments, it is time for us to pour the brass. Do you think it's ready to cast?
Definitely.
It's in place. Time to go, Will. I'm going to turn on the vacuum. I'm going to pull the brass. Uh-oh, the gasket is burning. I think our flask was too hot. Wow! There was definitely a vacuum. Well, we have a second one that we can try it with. Uh-oh, that doesn't look good.
Do you want to quench it? I'm scared. I'm really bad at filming.
Why?
Because I was looking at your face and then it took me like 8 seconds to get down to the water.
Oh, where did it go?
You get to go fishing.
No, I'm doing the next one. Here we go.
You're gonna have to go fishing. You're not gonna be able to pull that piece out. Remember how small of a piece that is? Lazy, but not in the parking area.
Oh, hey.
That's actually not too bad.
We did a thing. That needs to be hammered out. So we'll wash them off. This is what they look like now. This is the first one we cast. You'll see there are lots of little bubbles, lots of bits of
lots of pock marks there on the end of it, at the bottom of the casting, and this looks a lot better. We've got to polish it up so we can see more.
Will is gonna get back to working on that wax guard. I'm gonna take that little brass test piece, start messing around with it, see what we can make it look like. So after a few hours of work, this is what the piece that Will sculpted in wax, we then poured in brass, looks like, after touching with files, with burrs, with abrasives, with gravers, all sorts of fun stuff. And yeah, lots of practice needed, but it's an interesting education, helping us point the ship with where we're going with the guard on this project. It's been a pleasure as always having you here for this episode. As we round out the video, I would like to thank today's sponsor, which has been NordVPN. What is a VPN? Well, a VPN, virtual private network, keeps you safe while you're browsing on the internet by being able to encrypt the data that is sent from a website to you by acting as an intermediary between you and that website. Usually when you're just browsing, your data is extremely vulnerable to hackers. It can easily be compromised, and that is just no good. When you get your subscription to NordVPN, you have access to over 1,000 of their servers in 61 countries, which means that not only can you choose where in the world the websites think you're browsing from, but those servers will access that information, encrypt it, jumble it all up, make it extremely difficult to see what is the data that you're sending and where it's coming from. The servers then send it back to you, and once you install NordVPN on iOS, Android, PC, or Mac, the handy-dandy app will unencrypt it. And you see, this is a good little example of how easy it is to pick your countries. I was in the UK. We're going to select USA, turn on, and we're now connected to the US servers. This is a fantastic tool to keep you safe, especially if you're ever on a public Wi-Fi network, like if you're out traveling. So be sure to go to nordvpn.com/forge to get 75% off a 3-year plan. It's a hell of a deal. And on top of that, when you use code FORGE at checkout, you're going to get 1 extra month for free. Thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring the episode. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for supporting our sponsors. It's been a pleasure, as always, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.